Committee, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas.
Tom, great to have you here. What did you guys talk about?
Good morning. It's good to be on with you all. Glad to see those two are working out their differences.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll last a week.
David Perdue and I went to the White House to meet with the president about an immigration bill we've introduced that would refocus our legal immigration system on high-skilled immigrants who come to this country with English language competency, education levels that are higher than we have now, with higher levels of job skills that will be able to contribute to the economy. Right now, only about 1 out of 15 immigrants that we admit to this country every year come based on those criteria. The president has said in public, as he told us yesterday, that he wants to move in the direction of, for instance, Canada and Australia, and focused on more of what he calls a merit-based system. Our legislation is the first step in that. He'd like to see additional steps focusing on some of the employment-based green cards and visas, and we're happy to work with him on that.
Well, I thought he had talked about wanting to get the best and the brightest in, but I also heard a couple days ago that he was talking about actually limiting the number of immigrants coming in that Silicon Valley relies on, the high-tech, highly educated immigrants. Where is he on that issue, the H-1B visas?
Well, Joe, I think on the H-1B temporary visa, but also the permanent green cards like EB-1, EB-2, the president wants to get the very best people from around the world. Often those programs are implemented in a way that are not consistent with their purposes. They don't bring in PhDs and computer scientists. They bring in, they replace mid-level data management workers. That's why you get controversies around people losing their jobs at companies like Disney and Southern California Edison that were just replaced by foreign workers who weren't necessarily high-skilled. So he would like to see reforms to those programs, as I would. It's really an empirical question where we do have gaps in our economy, but I will say this. There is no job that American won't do. Americans with the right pay will do any job. That's just the facts of the matter. And we need to make sure that we're focused on Americans getting back to work and getting higher wages, supplemented where needed based on the evidence with immigration.
Senator, I want to ask you about this WikiLeaks disclosure of alleged CIA hacking tools, lots of documents. Two questions. One, has that disclosure done any damage to American security? And two, are you troubled by anything in those documents about how the CIA conducted itself?
Mark, I don't want to comment on the WikiLeaks disclosures. I will say this, though. The CIA is a foreign intelligence service. It collects intelligence on foreign targets to keep our country safe. It does not do intelligence work domestically. But beyond that, I don't want to comment on the contents or confirm or deny anything about the documents that appeared on WikiLeaks yesterday.
Mike Barnicle.
Senator, yesterday, the House, Speaker Ryan, the health care bill, does it trouble you at all that this is thrown out and it's going to be marked up starting today, I think, without any estimate of cost? Does that bother you at all?
Mike, I think we're moving a little bit too quickly on health care reform. This is a big issue. This is not like the latest spending bill that gets released on a Monday night and passed on a Wednesday and everybody goes home for Christmas and we live with it for 9 months. We're going to live with health care reform that we passed forever or until it's changed in the far distant future. So I don't think we need to introduce legislation on Monday and have one chance to amend it on Wednesday. That's what they did with Obamacare, and that's one reason why Obamacare has seen so many people lose their insurance or lose access to their doctor despite the promises that were made. I would much sooner get health care reform right than get it fast. That's, after all, why we have a Congress. So 535 different people from all regions of the country representing different kinds of constituencies can come together and talk at a deliberate pace and try to reach a consensus solution that's best for the American people. So I do not want to move in a hasty fashion. I want to get it right. I don't want to get it fast. And the Senate certainly will not just be jammed with whatever the House sends over here.
Steve Branagh.
Senator, actually, I think Mitch McConnell said he wanted to try to pass this by the Easter recess. I don't know whether that's practical or not, but putting that aside, given that the bill has now been laid out in great specificity, can you be for it? And if you're not for it, what changes in it would you want in order to be for it?
Well, Steve, this is my exact point. Trying to pass this bill through committee in the House today and maybe even pass it through the floor next week, even though it's much shorter than Obamacare, it's very hard for us to get our hands around what's in it. The language, you may have seen it, is highly technical and complicated. It may only be 123 pages long, but you have to review it in the context of today's laws and today's regulations. So it's hard to say right now where one stands on any particular provision, or especially the bill as a whole. It obviously has some good measures, some of the Medicaid reforms that will give governors more flexibility to tailor their Medicaid programs to their population, to make sure that Medicaid protects the traditional Medicaid population, like the severely disabled and the blind and the elderly. But beyond that, it's simply too soon to say. We've only had this bill in public for 36 hours. And to try to rush it through this week and then vote on it within the next few weeks really does harken back to some of the problems that Obamacare was created under.
Senator, if you went back to your state and heard from constituents that they were concerned about the president's credibility and the White House's credibility, what would you say?
Well, it's understandable. Donald Trump won a large majority in Arkansas, but 39% of Arkansans voted for someone besides Donald Trump, so that's over 1 million people. I would simply say it's still early in this presidency. Presidents often get a honeymoon, in part because they're formulating their administration team and their policies, so we should give them a chance to continue to do so. And this president, like with any other president, like with any other politician, I'll support him when he's right, and I'll try to change his mind when he's wrong. And if I can't, then I'll oppose him.
Yeah, speaking about when he's wrong, obviously his tweet on Saturday morning talking about Barack Obama tapping his phones at Trump Towers. Everybody in the intel community has said that is not the truth. You are obviously on the Intel Committee. I'll ask you what everybody else was asked yesterday. Have you seen any evidence whatsoever that Barack Obama ordered any wiretapping on Trump Towers?
I've seen no evidence of that, Joe, but I would also say a lot of the anonymous sources in the media are stating things that are very precise and not exactly the full picture either. When, for instance, the president's spokesman denies that either the president or a White House official, quote unquote, ordered surveillance, that doesn't really deny very much if you understand how the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court works.
Right.
It's a judge that would order those things, and it's the Attorney General or her agent that would file that application.
Right. So the president was
no,
obviously wrong on his face. First of all, saying that you're exactly right. Saying that Barack Obama ordered the wiretapping was ignorant of the president. I totally agree with you on that. But then let's take it to the next layer, and that is the FISA court. Does anybody in Washington, D.C. have any evidence that the FISA court ordered the tapping of Donald Trump's phones in Trump Tower?
Well, Joe, I'll simply say that the Intelligence Committee conducts regular oversight of the FBI and Department of Justice FISA court applications, as well as FISA court activity. And as part of our broader review of Russia's malign activities to try to undermine confidence in our political system last year, I suspect that we'll be looking at this matter. These are knowable facts, and we hope to learn them, and we hope to be able to share them with the American people and share as many conclusions as we can.
But Tom, don't you know right now,
capabilities.
Tom, though? I mean, everybody else in the intel, that's spoken out has said there's no evidence of this. Can you say this morning that you've seen no evidence that the FISA court ordered Trump Tower to be tapped?
Again, Joe, when you were talking about what the president said on Twitter, he's only dealing in 140-character tweets.
Right, but then you took it to the next level.
What General Clapper...
And so I'm just asking, let's go to the next level, and if he did know what he was talking about, he would have said the FISA court ordered these. I'm asking you, as we take it to the next level and agree that he was ignorant in what he said in his tweets, if you take it to the next level, then just a question about the FISA court. Is there any evidence anywhere from anything you have seen that the FISA court ordered the tapping of Donald Trump's phones at Trump Towers at the end of the election?
Joe, again, let me be precise in the language here. I have seen no evidence of such a FISA order. However, as General Clapper said over the weekend, as I believe General Hayden has said on your program, it is not uncommon to have what's known as incidental collection on any American citizen. And that simply because a FISA order may or may not exist for another person doesn't mean that other innocent Americans will not appear there. For instance, to take a wholly hypothetical and different case, if the FBI has a FISA warrant on a suspected terrorist, and that
Right.
suspected terrorist is, say, making phone calls to a box truck rental store or to a fertilizer store, those people may be very innocent, but their names and the contents of those communications would appear under those FISA surveillance
Yeah,
matters.
I'm pretty sure that-
I want
pretty sure
I
that
want to be
happened.
very precise in
That's
the
so
way
far from
that
what
General
the
Clapper and
president
General Hayden
tweeted
has.
that I'm not even sure how you.
I'm pretty
why
sure
you
that incidental contact, I'm pretty sure that did happen. I mean, it's been happening to Barnacle now for 40 years in Boston, so it does happen sometimes. Tom Cotton, we thank you for your patience, and we are still absolutely fascinated and dumbfounded as to why your wife likes your beard. But we're with her.
growing on me.
I'm joking. I like it.
Coming up.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Tom. Always great to have you.
Thank you all.
Coming up.